Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. It's the Thursday Thoughts of Soccer down here. John here, you there. And this morning it's Open Cup because there's a lot to talk about Open Cup. We got news of the AM. We're going to lay everything out for you with Open Cup and what the matchups are and all that kind of stuff. Morning Dell. And we'll go through the ref assignments because we have ref assignments and we actually have statistics. We found a place where we can get statistics since the website for the officials doesn't give it to you. So we had to kind of figure out where to go. And we went to our friends at Who Scored. And so now we've got some numbers. Pars, we'll talk about that. We can get into that if you wish. We'll get into all the news of the morning and anything else that was left over from yesterday where we had a long and spirited discussion about things. So whatever's on your mind, Thursday Thoughts, that's what they're there for all morning long. And Niko Moreno joining us at 10:30, as he always does. Early morning, second cup of coffee, kind of a visit to start his day. We'll go over what happened with Open Cup out west last night, get you ready for the weekend that will be. Anything else on Niko's mind as we go, and it'll be another full show. Tomorrow, a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. And so traffic for tomorrow is going to be kind of jammed. Obviously, hopefully we can get our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring to visit in the 9:30 half hour. It looks like Jason on the full sprint is going to be joining us in the 10 o'clock half hour. And we're going to get you ready for the WPSL. Friends from Decatur City, Decatur FC are going to be dropping by in the 10:30 half hour. Don't know who yet, but we do know that they will be. So Beyond Goals Mentoring, weekend whip around, Jason briefly to discuss Atlanta and LAFC, and then Decatur FC gets you ready for the WPSL season because they're playing Friday night at Decatur High School, and it'll be the first match for the expansion club, the WPSL. So it'll be a full show tomorrow, as it always is, and we'll have all of our programming for all of the other leagues that are going on right now. Those will be released on Friday. As we go here, get you ready for the weekend with all the USL divisions going on, Championship, League One, League Two, W, NPSL. Am I forgetting anybody? Let's see, W, League Two, and there's going to be a big event in Dothan this weekend with the first home match for Dothan United. NPSL, let's see, I'm looking at my notes. W, League One, League Two, Championship, NPSL, WPSL. Okay, all of those. Those episodics will be coming out. And also on Saturday, Maddie and I yesterday went up to go catch up with the National CP training, and they're having one of their camps getting ready for the world competitions coming up in November. And so they're having a camp up at Kennesaw State. And so we're catching up with folks there as the U.S. is chasing after another medaling performance in the World Championships in November in Spain. And so hopefully we can catch up. We're catching up with folks yesterday and today, and we'll piece that together for you. Written piece tomorrow on soccerdownhere.net, and you'll get to hear from some of the particulars and some of the principals up there that are having fun at the camp up in Kennesaw, and you'll get to hear that on the weekend. It was a real eye-opening experience for me yesterday, first time that I've ever been to that camp, and thanks to Tracy Messier and Herman Safera and Coach Stuart Sharp. We get to hear from Coach Sharp again. But it was great to catch up with everybody up there today. Maddie's going to catch up with them later today, and that'll be up on the weekend as well as this camp gets them ready for hopefully another medaling performance. MEDALING, not MEDDLING, not medaling, but medaling performance, the added syllable in the middle. And hopefully we can we'll catch up with them today, and we'll have it for you on the weekend. So very, very cool and eye-opening stuff that we got to experience yesterday up in Kennesaw. Let's see. So morning Dell, morning Pars, morning Tom, morning Emilio. And so, well, like I said, whatever's on your mind, throw it in the Twitch pitch. We'll talk about it. Last night, and this is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code there as I cover up our QR code from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, because I don't want you to get any kind of conflicting QR codeness. Once again, that's the code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Click on that QR code, and don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 when you check out. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%. Reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they've earmarked. And just ask our friend Melissa Ortiz, who is part of the Golden Ticket Status Holders Club. And because she's one of the folks that has started the thing. And so we get to catch up with her and what she's doing on the business side. And you get to start your day off really well. So Soccer Down Here 15, they in turn take 10% and reinvest it in youth clubs, youth initiatives that they've earmarked as cool. Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There we go. Okay. Last night was Open Cup. And before we get into the matchups and the finals and from last night and get you ready for what happened, what's going to be happening in the second week of July, the round of 8. It was pretty easy to break things up geographically. And with the Open Cup, it was pretty easy by the end of the night. But there was one matchup that was off the rails last night, and it was one where Abby was having a vested interest because of her Fort Lauderdale strikersness. Going back to the days of the old North American Soccer League, Fort Lauderdale hates Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay hates Fort Lauderdale. So last night, the middle game of the 3 when it came to kickoff time was FC Dallas and Tampa Bay. It was at Al Lang Stadium in Tampa Bay. And for those of you that missed it, if you can find a way to go back and watch it, I'm fairly certain that U.S. Soccer has not blown the whole thing up. But last night, you saw one of the wildest matches that has been out there in the ether for quite some time, and one of the craziest goalkeeper performances that you got to see for the first time in a long time. And the reason I say that is this. You look at the score and you're sitting there and you're thinking, there's not a whole lot to it. But then you dig into the stats, and one person in particular had a match out of his mind, and it was FC Dallas keeper Lander Peiss. And here's the numbers from last night. I'm going to build up to this just because of the craziness that was attached to the matchup last night. So by the end of it all, Dallas did win. They scored 2 goals in 9 minutes in the first half. They would eventually win. They had a 2-0 lead for the first 85 minutes. Tampa got a penalty, and it was hang on to the door, like the scene in Twister, when the tornado's coming over the farmhouse and you're either inside the barn or you're down below ground and you're trying to hang on to the piece of metal so you don't fly away. That's what the last 5+ minutes were for the matchup last night after Tampa had scored, and it was a pretty soft penalty, by the way. So it was 2-1, 85th minute, and then you hang on. So here are the stats from the match last night. Possession 51-49. That's about normal. Big chances, 5 for Tampa Bay, and they didn't convert on them. 1 big chance for FC Dallas. Corners were 10-5, and a lot of those for Tampa Bay were late as they were chasing. And, you end up with, oh, wow, we actually have player stats too. Oh, but that's USL Championship stuff. So that's your basic stats from the matchup last night. Fouls on the board, in decent number, 22, 12-10 on behalf of FC Dallas. So FC Dallas had the advantage, if you want to call it that, when it came to the statistics on the day. Passes, totaled over 800, 13-10 in tackles for FC Dallas. Free kicks, which meant, obviously fouls, you flip them, 12-10 on that side. 4 yellow cards for FC Dallas. I'm skipping the shots numbers because that's the hook here in the story. 1 big chance scored and 4 big chances missed for Tampa Bay in the match, by the way. Touches in the penalty area, we'll get into that. Fouled in the final third, 7 for Tampa Bay, only 1 for FC Dallas. 4 offside calls for Tampa Bay and 1 for FC Dallas. Accurate passes, literally there was 1 out of 700 or 675 passes. They were separated by 1 number. Throw-ins 20-18. We'll get into final third phase and entries and long balls and crosses, and duels were won by Tampa Bay at 53%, dispossessed 5 times. FC Dallas dispossessed 7. And so ground duels, it was 30-29, and aerial duels, it was 9-6. So literally that's what you were staring at. Wins on the dribble for Tampa Bay was 8-6 on the night. Tackles won 90% for Tampa Bay compared to 77 for Dallas. Total tackles 13 to Dallas for 10, 11 interceptions on the night for FC Dallas compared to 8. Tampa Bay had more recoveries. We'll get into clearances because that's a part of the story as well. Saves, goal kicks, etc., and the shot map and all that kind of stuff. So the reason I held out a couple of numbers was because I mentioned the night that Leander Paes had for FC Dallas. Big chances on the night, 5-1 for Tampa Bay. Total shots, and so Dell puts it in the Twitch pitch. But yeah, for those of you not looking at the Twitch pitch, Tampa Bay had 30 shots, 3-0. 30 shots, 3-0, 30. And I think that's being kind. Jason and I were watching it, and we're trying to recommend others to watch it feverishly. I think 30 is a low number. 30-7 was your shots last night. Tampa Bay had 30 shots, 8 saves for Paes compared to 3, 10 corners compared to 5. And just to carry through on that, 10 shots of the 30 were on target compared to 5 of the 7. 3 hit the woodwork, 16 shots off target for Tampa Bay compared to 1. 4 blocks for Tampa Bay. 23 shots inside the 18, which obviously means that 7 were outside the 18. But 23 shots of your 30 inside the 18. 8 saves for Leander Paes. 4 big chances missed. 44 touches inside the penalty area last night. 44. Like more than 43. More than 40, more than 1, 2, or 3. 44 touches inside the penalty area last night for Tampa Bay. 7 times they were fouled in the final third. Big chances missed, 4-1. Touches in the penalty area, and we mentioned that 44-8. The insane number there. Throw-ins 20-18. Final third phase. Passing numbers. 97 out of 140 compared to 33 of 61. Tampa Bay had the advantage there. Final third entries practically doubled, 80-38. 39 long balls for Tampa Bay last night. Converting on 39 of 51, which is insane when you think about it. 11 of 56 converted for Dallas. Crosses 13 for Tampa Bay compared to 1. 1 cross on the night by Tampa Bay, or by FC Dallas. 13-1 in crosses. We mentioned the duels and everything. Ground duels, 30-29 and 9-6 in the air. Tackles and picks, recoveries, 52-45. Clearances for FC Dallas on the night, 35. 35 clearances for FC Dallas compared to 8 for Tampa Bay. Total saves, 8-3, and I think that's being kind to Paes. Big saves, 4. Goal kicks, 17. 17 goal kicks last night. So with all of those numbers, you're sitting there thinking, man, this must have been a dominant performance. Nope. Magic and beauty of the Open Cup. Hashtag magic of the Open Cup, or however you want to phrase it. FC Dallas, 2 goals in a 9-minute stretch, had to defend 30 shots from Tampa Bay last night. And they did. Like I said, it was a soft penalty called in the 85th minute to get Perez to get it to 2-1. But, 30 shots. And Paes had 8 saves. I still think those 2 numbers are low. So that's what you were staring at. That's what you were staring at from all of those numbers last night. Hashtag Magic of the Open Cup. Yeah, just literally it was 2 mistakes, being clinical, short field, the whole thing. So there you go. That's how Dallas won at Al Lang last night in Tampa Bay. With all of those numbers I just gave you from Tampa Bay, you're sitting there thinking, man, Tampa Bay blew them out. Nope. Did not happen. So Tampa Bay advances. Indy 11 had no problem last night with Detroit City. 3-0 in the first half, and that was how it finished. And then the late game, Phoenix was up 1-0 at the half, and they end up losing 2-1 to Seattle at Starfire. Remy Cabral scored at 45 plus 5. Like I said, we'll get more from Niko coming up at 10:30. But you end up with Alex Roldan scoring a penalty in the 68th minute. So Phoenix had the lead for the first 2/3 of the match. Then you had Roldan scoring a pen in the 68th, and then Cosa Rienzi scoring with 2 minutes to go to keep it from going the extra 30, which MLS teams were sitting there going, man, last thing I want is for it to go the extra 30. So 2 goals, 68th and 88th. Seattle got the 2-1 win, and they advance. So that was the late game. So even before this game had kicked off, everybody knew what their path was. And it was fairly simple. And we'll get into that right now because that's the end of opening kickoff. Going through all of the numbers and the survival that FC Dallas had last night, 30 shots on target, 8 saves for Martin Peiss. And it was 30-8, 2 goals in 9 minutes. FC Dallas advances, and it frankly wasn't close. It wasn't 2-1. It was literally it was a 2-0 match. But then you get that penalty call 5 minutes to go. So that's magic of the Open Cup. 8 saves from Martin Peiss on 30 shots. Yikes. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you're watching us this morning, especially if I could fill out social media appropriately and not look at automatic fill-ins, where hopefully you're doing something more than just twitch.tv/soccer _space here. That's your QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15, and that gets you 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives that they have earmarked that are cool. Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Abby, we are not playing Dallas in the next round. The matchups at 10 o'clock last night were fairly easy because what they did is they divided it up east-west. And it was pretty easy to figure it out. And these are the divisions. The eastern half and the western half are how it's going to be laid out for the semifinals, for the quarters and the semis. So you stay within your group of 4 going into the finals. So the East and the West, they know what their groups of 4 are. And for Atlanta United, I don't think it could have ended up any better. I literally don't. Your group of 4 ends up being Atlanta United, Indy 11, Sporting Kansas City, and FCD. That's the eastern half. And the way that it was laid out, they drew the first 2 home sites. Those were the first 2 names that were pulled out of the bowls. Sporting Kansas City was the H1. So that means that Sporting, if they win in the quarters, they host the semi. H2 is Atlanta. And so that means that Atlanta hosts in the quarters, and they would get first dibs if Sporting was to lose to FC Dallas in the quarterfinals. But if you're looking at draw for Atlanta United in their group, 3 MLS teams, 1 USL Championship team, Atlanta on either July 9th or 10th in Kennesaw will play Indy 11. to advance to the semifinals of U.S. Open Cup. Sporting Kansas City and FC Dallas will play in the other one. No word if that's going to be at Overland Park or if that's going to be at Children's Mercy Park. But either way, Atlanta is the second home team drawn in the East. So what you're looking for if you are Atlanta United is obviously taking care of your own business, and you're also hoping that FC Dallas takes care of Sporting Kansas City on the road. As evidenced by Martin Pice. That might be a little difficult. Can he be on another heater in the second week of July at fifth third? At the fraction, we will see what happens between Atlanta United and Indy 11. But once again, July 9-10, that's your quarterfinals. Atlanta United ended up being the second home team picked, the H2 out of the bowls. So Sporting Kansas City is your number one in the East. They'll host the quarters and semis if they make it that far. Atlanta United would be the backup plan if FC Dallas beats Sporting Kansas City in the quarterfinals. And that's what you're hoping for. In the West, the Final Four there end up being Sacramento being the H1, which means everything feeds through Sacramento. Everything feeds through Sacramento. Team unbeaten in USL Championship right now. 2 more wins than Charleston Battery, if I remember correctly. They've started out their season 7-0-3. They're a juggernaut in the West in USL Championship, and everything feeds through Hard Health Park in Sacramento. The second home team is LAFC. New Mexico United could only host in the quarters and not the semis, so they were on the road. They're on the road the whole time. And Seattle goes to Sacramento. The Seattle Phoenix winner is the one that was heading to Sacramento for the quarterfinals. And then, once again, Sacramento, quarters and semis. LAFC, if something happens in the quarters, if Seattle wins on the road at Sacramento, which is no small feat, then LAFC would be your H2. It would go to BMO Field. But everything right now feeds through Sacramento in the West. And it's going to be a treat to see the crowds in Sacramento that might be larger than the crowds that will be watching Major League Baseball over the next 2 seasons. And I'm not kidding. But Seattle goes to Sacramento. New Mexico United goes to LAFC. So that's your final 8 in U.S. Open Cup for 2024. Everything feeds through Sacramento in the West. And that's going to be a fun thing to watch. And then once again, everything in theory feeds through Sporting Kansas City with Atlanta United in the 2-hole. They're batting second when it comes to home dates for the semifinals if things fall apart. So Sporting, Atlanta United in order of home sites. Sacramento, LAFC out west in order of home sites. So that's what you're staring at. Favorable draw for Atlanta United. Favorable. Absolutely favorable. 3 wins away from a title in 2024. And there should be an expectation that you should be in the semifinal. At the very least. To go up against Sporting or FCD. But that's the draw after last night. Once again, July 9-10. Don't know the semis or anything like that yet. It would be August 27th and 28th. And then the final would be September 25th. So basically, July, 6 weeks later, a month later. July, August, September. That's your Open Cup grid for the rundown for the rest of it all. So the draw could not have gone any better for Atlanta United yesterday. Short of being the number 1 slot in the Eastern Conference. If you didn't get the number 1 slot, if you didn't get H1, you got the favorable opponent matchup. You got the favorable opponent. So there you go. Looking through all of the comments about what's going on, I'm going to go backwards because Dell says that the game should be at Indy instead of Kennesaw. All right, so Dell, let me ask you this. If you had a home field advantage at a place other than Patriots Point, I mean, let's just say for the sake of argument, because I can't think of another stadium. If you went to if the North Charleston Coliseum, say, I mean that's where the hockey team plays, so but it's just another arena off the top of my head. If the North Charleston Coliseum, which I imagine has either the same or slightly less of a capacity, if you had an amazing home field advantage there in cup competitions outside of regular league play, if it was more intimate, if it was more of a setting where crowd was on top of you, that kind of a thing, where you were in, like, we always envision when we watch CONCACAF Champions League, which is, now the Triple C, when we would watch the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza in these cup competitions, if you were in a place where, say, you're looking at, Herediano or Saprissa, and you're playing either in the Monsters cage or you're playing at Herediano instead of at the National Stadium, which is wider and it has, it has obviously a larger capacity, but it's wider, not as intimate, not as loud. So that kind of a thing. If you had the opportunity to be in a more intimate / louder surrounding to take advantage of home field, where you get into, you're looking at something like that, I think in these situations you opt for having that more intimate surrounding. If you've got a barn that fits, I mean, it's entirely up to the team where they want to have it, if they have an alternate venue. Sporting plays at Children's Mercy, and then they also play in Overland Park, where Sporting Tube actually plays in Lawrence. But I mean, if you played in Overland Park, and I don't know where this one's going to get played yet. I've yet to flip those pages and see. But if you could play at the North Charleston Coliseum, slightly less, more, and the roof was there, and it was, you could carve out seats and something like that, and you could sit there and play in there, and it could be loud and intimate. I think you would take something like that for a semifinal and a final. Sure, you move it to Mercedes-Benz, because let me see if I can find it. Do I have my Open Cup? I know I've got it in here somewhere. Where's my Open Cup? That's Electric Boogaloo with Deportivo Toluca. I think it's probably over there, which means it's just out of range. But anyway, over here, there it is, 2019 Lamar Hunt Open Cup. If you had the chance to play in a more intimate surrounding, to advance into a semis and a final, I think you take it. I mean, Dell, if you had that chance, and if he'd played obviously in a building like North Charleston, and you'd had this amazing record and you had never been beaten, and you knew that you were going to sell the place out and it was going to be loud and nasty and all that kind of stuff, you go there. And I know that Dell has said that comment follows up the previous remark, smaller teams should host an Open Cup. I don't know if TT said that or not. But, if you trust things to the spinning balls and bowls, you have that kind of a thing. I mean, I understand, and in the earlier rounds, absolutely see that. So that way you can bring the clubs in for the larger gates to help out the home sides and these things, and like the first, second, and third round. If you have the first division and the second division teams going on the road, then yeah, I could see something like that. But this point, you've got 8 teams left, and you're looking at, and the current formats, I think it is how they do it in the FA Cup. So, I'm all for big gates because, I mean, and we talked about it here on the show, where if South Georgia Tormenta had made their way through and we were going to be in this group where it would have been the matchup against the Charleston Battery, I would have thoroughly enjoyed if Paulson Stadium, which now has a different family name because of the level of sponsorship, but if you had gotten into a barn like Paulson Stadium in Statesboro to play South Georgia Tormenta, if it was soccer ready, it's not wide enough. But to be in a venue like that where you could have had 20,000 people, something like that, where Atlanta United comes to town, big bad Atlanta United goes to take South Georgia Tormenta. But, if you had it at Tormenta Stadium at Optum at Sports Medicine Field, where you're looking at, 4,000 folks, that same kind of a vibe. That'd be a hell of an environment. But now that you're into this particular point of the tournament, then if you've got multiple venues to your disposal, then whatever floats your boat at this point. And I think what you're also doing is you're trying to make it as loud as possible and restrict the visiting team's fans coming into your building. If you are the home team in any of these, you're going to want to play in a smaller venue, at least this round, because the last thing you want to do is turn it into a building that is louder when the away fans come in than when you would be. So you're going to be playing in that more of an intimate setting. With Atlanta, that means that 8,000. So basically you only have to surrender 800 tickets to Indy 11. Maybe 1,000 if you're nice. I think it's 10%. So you don't have to give up the building and you don't have to give up the noise if you're in a smaller setting. If it was at Mercedes-Benz, say, as an example, Indy 11 probably would be bringing a boatload of fans. You don't, and even if it's 1,000, if it's 1,000, 1,500 fans, whatever, in the lower bowl at 43,000, you want to restrict that kind of noise at any and all opportunities. You want it to be your barn, your advantage, your noise. So having a smaller venue to take care of that, to where you're not having to dole out all these tickets to the visitors, short of a semifinal and a final. That's what you do. You take advantage of every possible thing you can down the line. Okay, what can we do here to make sure that the visitors are as quiet as possible? Put them in a smaller locker room than they're used to. Put them in a smaller stadium than they're used to. I don't know if Kennesaw State and Brian Bohannon would allow for the visitors' locker room to be painted pink like it was at Iowa when Hayden Fry was basically like, okay, what do we do to try to come up with an advantage? Okay, we'll paint the visitors' locker room pink for football. You're looking for every advantage possible to get you that much closer to winning a trophy and getting into the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. So smaller barn, less folks from the visiting team. Make it uncomfortable for the visiting team. Bare bones visitors' locker room. Man, I can't believe we're in this place. Can't believe it. This place. We're in this locker room. Harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. But that's what you're staring at. You want every possible advantage down the line. You want to restrict Indy 11's fans to being about 800 max. You want to restrict Indy 11 to sit there and think, man, this isn't even the mic. Morning, Unc. Any possible advantage you take. And that's what you do. So having this one at Fifth Third, not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. Shouldn't be. Abby was doing math, and we know how dangerous that is. Abby's guessing that the game is July 9th since we've got an away game at Salt Lake on the 6th, or is it the 10th because of that away game? But yeah, so we're keeping an eye on Atlanta United's schedule now and seeing how things possibly could be synced. But, yeah, so you got – and the thing is that – and Abby brings up a point here. You're at 3 in a row on the road because of Copa. And so, honestly, you didn't have any choice. It wasn't going to be in I don't think it was going to end up being in Mercedes-Benz because you're in the middle of Copa, or at least you're coming out. Well, you're coming out of Copa. You're coming out of Copa at that point. And I don't know how much it would take for the sod to be pulled back out and get everything back to normal anyway between the end of the Copa dates, the 27th, and what it would be then. You would imagine it could take a couple of days, but then getting everything back to being oriented. But you're in the middle of 3 on the road for Major League Soccer. And it's 3 in 10 days. So what this does even worse for Atlanta United is you've got 4 matches in a 10-day period in July. So once again, do not be surprised if rosters, one way or the other, are flipped around because you've got New England July 3rd. Midweek, you've got the matchup against Salt Lake. Let me go to my July page. So July 3rd, midweek, New England, you're at New England. You're at RSL on the 6th. You've got Open Cup, either the 9th or the 10th, as I write this down on my calendar now. And then you're in Montreal on the 13th before your first home date back on the 17th. So basically, if you want to expand it out, it's 5 matches in a 2-week period in July. 5 matches in a 2-week period. 3 of them on the road in a row. The match in Kennesaw for Open Cup before you fly up to Montreal and take on Montreal and Stade Saputo. So one of those matches in that stretch before we expand it back out again. New England on the 3rd, Salt Lake, and this is at New England on the 3rd, at Salt Lake on the 6th. Home date, Open Cup 9th or 10th. Then you've got Montreal on the 13th. 4 matches in 10 days. 3 of them in Major League Soccer, 1 of them in Open Cup in the quarterfinals. Then you end up with a home match finally against NYC on the 17th. And then you've got a home date with Columbus on the 20th. So, okay. So in 6 matches in 17 days. 6 matches in 17 days, people. That's what you're staring at in July. But the first 2 of those are on the road in Major League Soccer. You come back home for Open Cup. Then you go back out on the road. Then you come back home. This is insane. So, July 3rd. I didn't even write that one in. July 3rd at New England, Wednesday. July 6th at Rio Tinto, Saturday. So Wednesday, Foxborough. Saturday, RSL. 9th or 10th, Kennesaw. 13th, Montreal. 17th, NYC. 20th, Columbus. And then that gets you into Leagues Cup on the 26th. So you have all of those going on. 3, 6, 9, 10, 13, 17, 20. 6 and 17 days. 6 and 17 days or 18 days, depending on how you do your math. That is a stupid July leading into Leagues Cup. No, you're not the only team that's going to be going through that. Obviously, Sporting is going to be going through it. Leading into it, at least. FC Dallas will be going into it. LAFC will be going into it. Seattle will be going into it. 5 MLS teams are going to be going through the same ish that you are in July because you're in the quarterfinals of Leagues Cup. Getting that added match jammed in there as a part of all of this. So, yay! You want to talk about MVPs? The physios are going to be the MVPs in this run, if they're not already, because of what can you give me? And this weekend is going to be another example of that. We'll go over the ref assignments coming up here in just a little bit. Niko Moreno joining us at 10:30. But the physios trying to tell coaching staffs, okay, so-and-so is right here. His tank is almost empty. He can give you 30. Both of the teams coming into this matchup on the weekend, it's going to be very, very interesting. Atlanta United rotated. LAFC did not. What does LAFC look like coming in? Denny Bouanga played 80 minutes. Bogish played the full 90. Ilie was pulled after 23 minutes on a precaution. What's the status of his health? Atuesta came in to fill that space. My guess is you're going to have Hugo Lloris between the sticks for LAFC. But what does the rest of it look like? Big guns played big minutes. For Atlanta United, you didn't have that. Obviously, we'll find out more today and tomorrow up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. But LAFC, they chose first choice midweek in a fairly comfortable win in the second half anyway. It developed that way. What does LAFC look like? Does Steve Cherundolo rotate, and to how much? But anticipating Hugo Lloris between the sticks because he did not play midweek in Open Cup. So you're staring at all of that. Yeah, brutal, ridiculous. Yes, I feel like Jim Rome. Ridiculous. It's brutal. It's cray-cray. Ridiculous. Schedule makers. All that stuff. So that's what you're staring at with Atlanta United and scheduling. Yay. So we know the when, we know the where, we just don't know the specifics yet, but it's part of a stupid July schedule leading into Leagues Cup. And I think you get 9 days off before your last MLS match, or 6 days? I think it's 6 days. You get 6 days. You get the matchup on the 20th, and then Leagues Cup, I think, is the first on the 26th or something like that. So it's somewhere in there with Leagues Cup kicking in on the 26th of July, and your last match is the 20th. So, yeah, basically 6 days off, and then DC comes to Mercedes-Benz for Leagues Cup. And then you get 9 days before Santos Laguna in Leagues Cup, and then you get to figure out where you're going from there. Do you make the postseason in Leagues Cup or no? Do you get time off? Who knows? But all these matches in this short amount of time is ridiculous. 3, 6, 9, 10, 13, 17, 20. 6 and 17 days or 6 and 18 days in July to get you into Leagues Cup. Yay! Physios are definitely going to be the MVPs in this run. All right, so let's see. Good morning, Pars. Morning, Dell. Morning, Tom. Morning, Emilio. Let's see. Who else is in? Morning, Abby. Yes, and Abby is still basking in the glow of the Tampa Bay loss. Morning, Alex. And let's see, as I sit here and scan through this morning. Morning, Unk. And Unk, thank you for helping out with the Marshall Island Soccer Federation scarf when I can get out of here and go to the post office heading your way. Thank you for doing that. So, yeah, it is. And morning, Derek. And, yes, absolutely crazy. So that's where we are. And so that's Open Cup. Chasing after titles, schedule compression upon schedule compression. And very, very cool. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to Open Cup. Niko Moreno coming in about 40 minutes. We got our referee assignments for the weekend, and Sergi Boyko is going to be the man in the middle for the matchup against LAFC. And I had to go to our friends at Who Scored to come up with numbers on the man in the middle for this particular matchup involving Atlanta United and LAFC. Sergi Boyko is the man in the middle. Tori Penso is your fourth. David Berry is your VAR in Dallas, Texas, and Joseph Batko is your AVAR. Numbers on Sergi Boyko. I was trying to figure out yellow cards and things like that, and what does it look like. Boyko, in apps, he's had 6 appearances in the middle this year, so he's technically tied for 4th. We've got a lot of folks that have 7. We have a couple that have 7, a lot who have 6 more than anything. 6 seems to be the median number this year. Boyko's got 6 appearances in the middle, but the interesting stat that popped out to me is when it comes to the fouls per game average, Sergi Boyko is down to the bottom. He is literally down at the bottom when it comes to your numbers, when it comes to your officials. So 18 on average fouls called per match. 18. And that is an incredibly low number. So, of course, I hit a button, MLS referee stats, went to my buddy at Who Scored. So, MLS soccer referee stats, discipline. You look at all of the guys that are there on the board, and it is legitimately not what I'm looking for. Referee statistics. Thank you. Jeez. All right, so your referee numbers. Sergi Boyko is far and away at the bottom, only averaging 18 fouls called. Alan Chapman in 7 matches is averaging 19.5. But Boyko is only averaging 18 fouls called in the matches that he's called this year. One of the lowest numbers of fouls per game called. Rubiel Vasquez, kind of right there with him at a .62. Fouls per tackle is .62. But Boyko's averaging 18 fouls per game. Alan Chapman is the only other individual that has less than 20. So, looks like Sergi Boyko lets him play. LAFC, I've not really necessarily been known to be a very physical team, but we'll see what happens. So, Boyko lets him play, only gives up 18 fouls on average. Gives up 3.5 yellows. He's given up 21 yellows so far. Obviously, 21 yellow cards, that boosts his average a little bit to 3.5. It's not the lowest. His numbers are higher than Alan Chapman when it comes to yellows per match, higher than Ted Unkel when it comes to yellows per match, and higher than Marcos de Oliveira when it comes to yellows per match. So Sergi Boyko lets him play. We'll see what happens about letting them play on short rest for both of these squads. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to Sergi Boyko. Your other assignments with your officials: Guido Gonzalez Jr. is the man in the middle for Charlotte and Philadelphia. Soren Stoichka is your VAR. DC in Chicago, Mark Allerton is the man in the middle. Catherine Nesbitt is your AR1. Kevin Terry is your VAR in that one. CF Montreal and Nashville, Timothy Ford gets to be the man in the middle for that particular matchup. Pierre-Luc Lausier is your 4th. Edvin Jurasevich is your VAR in that one. Ted Unkel gets the Revs in NYC. Basically, just let them wind up and take big shots at each other for the entire time. Corey Rockwell is your AR1. Chantal Boudreau is your 2nd AR. Yunus Morakchi is your VAR in that one. Purple Team and Crew gets Jair Marufo in the middle. Jorge Gonzalez is your VAR. Toronto and FC Cincinnati. Victor Rivas will be the man in the middle for Toronto and FC Cincinnati. Alejandro Mariscal is your VAR for there. FC Dallas and RSL. It is Abdou Njai, who we got to see in the matchup in Charleston. So knowing what we know about his style, so it's going to be all over the place. 8:30 for FC Dallas and RSL. That's going to be all over the place. Njai, when we saw him in Charleston, it was like literally, as Jarrett referred to it, as a 20-sided die. Literally, it's like playing Dungeons and Dragons and trying to play Dungeon Master and figure out what it's going to look like with Abdou Njai. At least it was in this matchup in Open Cup. You hope that over time he kind of settles in stylistically and figures out who he is when it comes to his personality. But if I'm at Toyota Stadium and I'm staring at FC Dallas and RSL, I would find a seatbelt because it might get a little wild. St. Louis and Seattle, Lucas Zapala's the man in the middle. Caroline Chenard is your VAR. Colorado, Minnesota, Philip Dujic is the man in the middle. Luis Guardia is your VAR. LAG and Dynamo, late night Saturday. Alan Chapman is the man in the middle. Eunice Morakchi is the VAR for that. Portland and Sporting, Drew Fisher, the man in the middle. Jorge Gonzalez, your VAR. San Jose and Austin, Chris Penso is the man in the middle. David Barry's your VAR. Joe Dickerson gets Vancouver and Messi and friends. Woo, boy. So, all right, so they give Joe Dickerson the trip to Vancouver, and he gets Vanni Sartini going up against Messi and friends. Have fun with that one. Soren Stoichkov is your VAR for that match. So, Del, no one really was Dell says, didn't like the ref in Charleston. He think he missed a handball. Okay, I know which play you're talking about. And from looking at it, and I think it was Edwin Mosqueda inside the 18. I think that Edwin's arm was too close, and it was a part of the silhouette. So, or, however you want to phrase it. But I don't think it was extended out one way or the other. Yes, contact might have been made, but it was still a part of the body shape. So I think that's the call you're talking about. I would say that was not, and if that was called, then that would have been a really tight call. And stretching out the players, that was the other thing to me. I appreciate, Mr. Njai's, how do we say this? Mr. Njai's care for the players, but legitimately, I was wondering, I have never seen an official do that before. I don't think I've ever seen an official do that where he's helping stretching out the players. I appreciate him being all neighborly and everything about it, but I legitimately think that's the first time that I've seen something like that ever when it comes to a man in the middle. Legitimately. First time I've ever seen a center ref sit there and help out a dude who might be having a cramp or a muscle issue. Man. So it was Jarrett that said he might have a degree in that. Yeah. I mean, that's that. Maybe he sensed that moment. He sensed the moment where player is down. I need to help him. Tweet, wander over. Okay, sit there. How's it going? Is this better? All I can hope is that when he did that I'm hoping that maybe just maybe that you added the time back. Maybe. Did you add the time back? I'm hoping. Just asking. Maybe, perhaps, possibly, probably, perhaps. But that was just weird. Yeah. Njai took a lot of things upon himself. One of them was stretching out players. But, so he is going to be in Major League Soccer this week. I don't remember seeing him in the first couple of weeks of the season when it came to replacement officials, so I don't know what his path has been to get him these kinds of assignments, but we'll see. Maybe so. If Chicho Arango is having stretching issues, does he help out Chicho Arango? Just saying. So we'll see what's going on. And by the way, I did block the gentleman who came in, or the entity that came in looking for cheap viewers, or trying to suggest cheap viewers for us. So there's been a discussion in the Twitch pitch about Gigi. Like I said, and what I always preface all this stuff by saying is, what we know publicly is what Gigi has said about his time here, enjoying his time here, those kinds of things. Tom Bogert, Fabrizio Romano reporting offer one rejected, offer two coming. Like I said, Romano, tier one source. Romano said yesterday that the player's keen on the move, whatever that means. So Romano is saying one thing, Gigi publicly is saying something else. And you're also in a situation is, okay, how much of this is the agent? Like I said, we don't know what we don't know. But that's where we are. Like I said, that's the extent of our knowledge with this. We have the tier one sourcing, and we have the empirical evidence from what Gigi has said and maintained publicly through his own mouth when he's been asked about his time here in Atlanta, and has mentioned that as closely as 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So, like I said, we don't know what we don't know. And I'm just with the evidence that the evidence is there. And I know that Tom is a part of the discussion in the Twitch pitch. And like I said, Tom, I run into you a lot. And I know that probably the next time that you and I run into each other at a public event, we were probably going to have to go into a corner someplace and have a long discussion, just in general. And Emilio's mentioning about the negotiation. Don't know. And, if like I said, this is another aspect of it that we don't know. Did they put things on the shelf until the end of the season so it's not a distraction? It's like, okay, we need to talk about this. Okay, cool, great, fine. Do you want to talk about it now? Do you want to talk about it later? Don't know. So if it's a part of a discussion, has it been shelved until the season's over? Is it an ongoing thing with an agent? How much of this is agent talk? Those are the larger points. So let's see. I'm trying to see what's going on with Dell, wondering about Forrest Lasso. Forrest Lasso, because we were all making the jokes about Lasso and not being in the lineup. Didn't Forrest get a red? I thought Forrest might have gotten a red in the previous round, so he could not have been available for the Open Cup match. I think that is what was going on. So I think Forrest was not available because of a previous engagement in the Open Cup. So let's see. So I'm trying to see what else is going on. Yeah, Abby being the Fort Lauderdalian. Abby, you need to get yourself the Fort Lauderdale FC gear from USLW. Yeah, Ben Olsen. Yeah. See, Ben Olsen's comments, for those of you that missed this, you say things and you wonder how much of it is just playing to the crowd and how much of it is actually legitimately what you think. So Ben Olsen, after losing to Detroit City, and that was the one that went like 38 rounds, and it ended up being, I think, keeper-on-keeper crime to close it out. Ask if there's a big divide in level between the two leagues and if the USL is really considered a second division. Here's Olsen, quote, Yeah, it's a second division. It's a second division, and it's not even close. As you go through these tournaments, you mix up the team a little bit, and that can be the difference. That can end up equalizing the games. There's no excuse. It was just a tough night, and the way we gave up 3 goals wasn't good enough. It was a really gutsy performance from them, meaning Detroit. The referee stunk, but that's not the reason we lost. We got knocked out of the Open Cup. It's not the end of the world. Jarrett Smith returning. Are you actually back from vacation, or did you?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
No, I'm back.
Okay. We've been spending most of the time this morning before Niko joins us at the bottom of the hour discussing Open Cup.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Atlanta's back home in the next round.
Yes.
Seattle has their little fortress lined up. Took it to a 2-1 win.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay somehow lost to Dallas despite shelling Dallas's goal.
Oh, Martin Pice. Man.
So what is this comment about Ben Olsen?
Oh, Ben Olsen. It was let me go back to where it was. It was the discussion about the USL and being truly a lower division in all of this.
That thing.
Yeah, that thing. Where Olsen, after they lose to Detroit City, he goes, "Yeah, USL's a second division." With Olsen's comments, you'd think there'd be MLS blowouts in rounds this deep into the tournament, but no.
Well, here's the thing about it. I think we've discussed this before, but let's do it now.
Sure.
One of the big differences between MLS and USL is going to be depth. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the amount of money you can spend and the kind of depth you can bring in. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, usually in those games where you'll see that separation is like the 60th to 90th minute, mm-hmm. when like an MLS team is able to bring somebody off the bench who is frankly of a higher quality because they have the budget to do so. I think that's a lot of times that's where you see the separation. It's why those games are so much fun, because early in the game, especially, it might be tilted the other direction. It might go back and forth. Like Atlanta, Charleston was kind of a back and forth affair. Both teams getting half and 3/4 chances through chunks of the first half into the second half, and nobody able to put it away. Then it's like Charleston just leaned on Atlanta late.
Yeah.
But that depth is gonna be one of the things that really separates those teams a lot of times. And Del, I did have nice things to say about the Battery, because the Battery are good. And, no, that's what pissed me off about the broadcast. I tuned in just long enough on the TV broadcast to hear the comment about like something about like, not respecting the Battery or not taking the Battery seriously. I'm like, who?
Yes,
everyone. Exactly. No one in Atlanta feels that way, I don't think. No. And if they are, you can pretty much disregard them.
Yeah.
First of all, Atlanta and the Battery have been doing battle in Open Cup since 2017, on and off. This little spell of not playing them in Open Cup, it's been honestly kind of weird. And then you reignited that. Second of all, go look at the loss column for the Battery this year.
Mm-hmm.
Go look at what's missing there.
Yeah, a round number exists.
Yes. A round goose egg exists. Mm-hmm. It's also a team that came within a shootout of winning USL Championship last year, and lost again in a shootout in the final. The idea that you wouldn't take the Battery seriously is comical, and I think frankly kind of insulting to the players on both teams, because we've talked to Gonzalo Pineda enough that he will talk up. It's kind of like the Nick Saban thing of you don't want the poison pill.
Yes,
he's going to talk up the opposition. He's going to tell his guys to be ready to have a dogfight, basically. And Charleston takes Atlanta seriously, and Charleston got up for that game, and they created, I think, the chances to create separation. Atlanta created some as well on good crosses, just weren't put away. The one that gets me late is Firmino heading a ball into the ground and then somehow it bouncing 48,000 feet into the air and taking out an airplane and Mir on the way down.
Yes.
I did not. The rat poison. I did not understand where that was coming from, and I thought it was insulting to Charleston because Charleston's a damn good team, man. I still would love to know why Tristan Traeger went to Monterey Bay.
Yeah.
Because that would have been very interesting to see Traeger come off the bench last night for the team.
Yeah, what
And that's and Del Atlanta's 0-2 shootouts before Wednesday night or Tuesday night. Atlanta United never won a shootout. They'd been in 2. They'd lost in the 2017 playoffs to Columbus, and they had lost last year in Leagues Cup. They'd never won a shootout before Tuesday night. Everyone kind of was in the same kind of like dread pirate boat in those moments. Oh, he got engaged. He wanted to be closer to his fiance and family in California. That tracks his dad's realtor in California. I know this because his dad was very active on Twitter when he was playing in Atlanta United too. Seems like a very pleasant person. But yeah, man, like I did not get the insinuation and the trying to create this narrative that Charleston were these plucky underdogs who were disrespected. No, they're plenty respected. They're going to be pretty good, and they're going to beat the dog out of somebody in the next few weeks. I know they play this weekend. I think it's El Paso.
Yeah, Friday night.
Oh man, the Wilmer Cabrera.
Yeah,
the Wilmer Cabrera-thon. If it's not El Paso, somebody's going to catch an absolute mollywhopping from Charleston in the near future, just out of spite, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But I did not get that. Like you rotated the hell out of your lineup. So your kids gave you some stuff, even though you'll wish that like Luke Brennan would put away a chance early in the game. Yeah. Charleston's going to tell you the same damn thing. I think Del mentioned they were on their backup keeper because their starting keeper broke his nose.
Yeah. Adam Greenless broke his nose against Birmingham in the rematch.
I feel comfortable, and we can just blame Birmingham for everything.
Yeah, and so when Kaler comes on next Thursday, we can have this discussion.
Yeah, man, that was interesting. But it was a fun game, and there is the history between them that makes one of those things that makes the Open Cup fun. Is you had in Atlanta's short history, shorter than Charleston's history, they have just been tied at the hip through the Carolina Challenge Cup in 2017 before you ever played a real game. Through Open Cups, through the weird-ass 2019 one where Atlanta went to play in Charleston, but the field was flooded. So they came and played behind closed doors in Kennesaw, and it was like 120 minutes of stupid. Brandon Vasquez scored 2 goals late. I forget who it was for Charleston in that game. I think it was 3-2 in like the 118th minute or something. And somebody for Charleston had an open net and hit the crossbar. Oh, I forget who it was, but they hit the crossbar, should have finished it. And like a minute later, Brandon Vasquez goes down the other end and scores to make it 4-2 or 5-3 or whatever the hell it was. Yeah. Just an absolute, like, Bacchus reigned over that game. And, oh, man. Well, yeah, and Atlanta refused to play on that field. And I remember one of the local reporters was down there, and he like went out on the field. He's like, "Yeah, they can't play on this. They could wait till tomorrow." But like, it was one of the things where like, it wasn't at Patriots Point. It was at the old facility.
Yeah, at MUSC Health. Yeah,
it was at MUSC Health, and it was that thing wherever it rained, and it's Charleston is this way in general that like when it rains,
yes,
congratulations, everything's going to flood into the bowl. And like I remember one of the reporters, I think it was Sid, was out there, and he's like, "Man, you couldn't play on it that night." He's like, "You could have waited, but you couldn't play on it that night." And I don't know why U.S. Soccer made the decision they made, but that game was hilarious at the fraction because Charleston came out very pissed off and scored a goal and was actively trying to put that game away. They were very, very good that night, and that was still Augie running that team. That wasn't Ben Pierman, but they were actively pissed off, and they played it, and that was such an absurd game. But like because of this history, like you don't have to like paint the plucky, disrespected underdogs. don't think anybody really disrespects Charleston in that sense.
Well,
you don't have to do it.
Anyone worth their salt does not disrespect for a double negative Charleston going into a situation like this. I think if you're looking to try to create ish and try and find a storyline and create something out of thin air, and you're not doing your research about Charleston in 2024, then that's what
even 23.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, one of my beefs, and this is getting into like we need John and Kaler for this to get into USL Hour and hijacking our show, but whatever.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought Charleston needed to get better at last year going into this year was the midfield, and they just went and got Aaron Malloy, like no big deal.
Yeah.
Like Memphis had an amazing midfield last year with Malloy in there, and it's still good, but Charleston was like, hey, what if we just went and got one of the best midfielders in the league and we just got better? Yeah. And like, Tristan wants to go to California. That's okay. We'll just bring in Jackson Conway, who you're still kind of waiting to see him unlock everything. We were talking about it before the game where someone mentioned, what if Conway puts it away? I'm like, well, Jackson Conway, because of his occasional inconsistencies, is as likely to score 2 goals in 30 minutes as he is to disappear for 70. He comes off the bench in that game, and I thought that was the right spot to deploy him because he's quicker than you think he is, but he's physical as hell, and Atlanta's tired. That was the right place to drop him out there, and man, it was. I kept waiting for that. It was like the Jackson Conway hammer is going to drop, and even when he got to the spot, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go because I've seen Jackson Conway like scuff penalties, but I've also seen him put away some of the most diabolically unstoppable penalties I've ever seen in my life. So I'm not really sure how this is going to play out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so box score in 2019 is now that I've finally had the chance to stare at it. Your lineups in this match for Atlanta United, in net, Alec Can. This is 2019. Mm-hmm. Back four, Dane
Wally Pip himself.
Yeah, Dane Breckenshea, Flo Pogba, Miles, and Open Cup Franco Escobar. In front of them in the 4-2-3.
Different than playoff Franco.
Yes. Driver and Big Red were your 2 midfielders in front of them. You had Darlington Nagbe and Jeff Lorenowitz. In front of them,
I like how you had to qualify Driver because somebody might be listening in and have no idea who you're talking about. Yeah. Local driver.
Darlington Nagbe. Dion Pereira, Andrew Carlton, Pity Martinez, and then up top, Romario Williams. That was your
USL legend, a Charleston Battery legend, Romario Williams. Atlanta sent him on loan there, I think, in 17, and he scored in like 6 straight games. Romario literally could not stop scoring for the Battery in like 2017.
Yep. So your starting lineup for Charleston in 2019: in net, Phil Breno. Your back 3: Schock, Mueller, and Nelson. No relation. AJ Patterson, Mason, Candela, and Niko Rittmeyer. Your midfield 4. And up top, Dante Marini, Ian Svanteson, and Piggott, who got swapped out in the 90th.
Ian Svanteson, who was like every bit of 6'6" and built like an old growth tree. Yeah, like Ian Svanteson, like the most Alan Gordon looking striker that USL had on offer at the time, and just an absolute joy to watch. Because I'll never forget covering some game at that godforsaken Coolray Field when Atlanta United 2 was still in USL, and Svanteson hit some gopher hunting shot that we were like, he's going to score with his head. Nah, he pulled up from outside the 18 and hit this little worm burner that cut into the corner of the net. Like, oh, he has that in his bag. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, and apparently Jay Bolt got a yellow in that match in 2019, and he did not play. He was on the bench.
That tracks.
Angelo Kelly subbed in. Higashi subbed in. Arthur Boswa subbed
Higashi, man, I'd forgotten about Higashi.
And Daly subbed in. So
I think Higashi did like an open tryout in Charleston, made the team, and then was like a contributor for a couple of years. And was just like, dude, come off the bench, cause havoc, man.
Yeah. And so that was your lineup in the 3-1 win on June 13th, 2019. Yes. Yeah. 3-1 win.
Well, see what we missed last night and I don't know, have you gone over the Tampa Dallas game?
Yeah, it was opening kickoff with
Okay.
Martin Pice and his 8 conservative numbered saves.
So had we gotten Tampa, we could have gotten, if it had been potentially Tampa playing Atlanta, we could have gotten Forrest Lasso, the revenge. Because Forrest Lasso is with Tampa now. Forrest Lasso, the giant Wolford alum center back who played at Charleston, scored against Atlanta in the Open Cup, went to Scandinavia, played for a bit, apparently had some weird falling out over there, came back, and I was playing with Tampa.
Yes. So I think it was because Forrest had a red in the previous round, and that's why he was not available.
Yeah.
For this particular go round.
That tracks.
So that was what we're staring at. News from the training ground this morning. It is Derek and Tiago training. Doug does not see Noah Cobb or Gigi out there this morning. So 2 of the 4 that we're staring at. So 2 practicing, 2 not. And so that's what we're staring at. We still don't have any kind of up-to-dateness on the Noah Cobb ankle injury. So we don't know level of seriousness or anything like that. But, coming into this weekend, like I said, I think the bigger question, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, is just since LAFC played a lot of first dudes, first choice for a lot of minutes, what does Cherundolo's lineup look like after a win against Loudoun United in the same round of the Open Cup? So what does Atlanta look like? What does LAFC look like? And then we mentioned with Open Cup that it's going to be part of 6 matches in basically 20-something days. I think it's 6 and 18 in July, sprinting into Leagues Cup. So it's going to be a fun stretch.
They still call Lasso a traitor when he comes to Charleston. Dell, I haven't seen anything on the Caleb Porter drama.
No, we haven't seen anything this week. No.
Anthony K, I think, said some of it wasn't true.
Yeah, it's like Mark Anthony K said, "Get my name out your mouth, Tommy Quinlan." Basically,
didn't specify if all of it or some of it or what about it. Yeah, there's that. To answer your question, John, I have no idea what either one of these teams look like going into this game this weekend.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you just played 120 emotional minutes Tuesday night on the road in Charleston, and now you got to come home.
Andre Blake's new contract is officially official, by the way, guaranteed through 26 with a club option for 27. That is out this morning.
That's all? I thought they'd give him a little. I thought they'd give him 27 through with an option for 28. Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, I don't know what either of these teams look like from a combination of both rotation and health and welfare. I don't know.
And to Dell's question about who's next on the block, Porter or Pineda, I don't know if it's either one of them because I don't know how to predict this anymore.
Especially with Gary being a news dump.
Yeah, Gary being the first one caught me off guard, which is to say, I think I'd been pretty firm. I thought Gary's time was done before now. I thought it had gotten stale, and part of me was a little surprised they didn't make a change in the offseason because they were just so bland after Leagues Cup last year. I don't know. Like, I'll tell you this. If Atlanta had lost to Nashville and if Atlanta had lost to Charleston, I think that decision would have made itself this week. You looked better in the second half against Nashville, and you earned a shootout win on the road in Open Cup. I'm not gonna, and I know people were mad. I think there's this assumption that you always that if you're even though we love the quote unquote magic of the cup, copyright trademark, we also still get mad at the idea of MLS teams not just pummeling USL teams. And more often than not, MLS teams win those games. It's what makes the USL upsets great. It's the same reason why we set up degenerate sicko pools for FCS, FBS matchups. That one time a year when somebody decides to when somebody decides to like schedule North Dakota State or something, or Eastern Washington, for God's sake, like why you would do that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
God only knows why you think that's a good idea. Look, never go to the Kibbie Dome. Just don't. No. That's another thing you should not do with your life, is go to the Kibbie Dome to play a competitive sport. But yeah, that's we do love those upsets. I think people were upset that Atlanta didn't like pummel Charleston. Again, Charleston's very good, and again, a lot of the separation between USL and MLS, a lot of times, is going to be those depth pieces where you just get pushed a little further over the line by MLS depth. Atlanta was punished by that, ironically, last year with Memphis, because it was Nye Pickering scoring, who's a youth national team member and is a young striker to watch.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to kind of get an idea of somebody who, as he continues to grow, might be getting calls from places bigger than Memphis, maybe in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Pickering is a problem.
Yes.
Yeah. We love, App State beating Alabama. Mm-hmm. I still go back and watch that for the call.
Yeah.
Or App State beating Michigan. Excuse me. I still go back and watch that for the call. Yeah. Just because the App State call is absolutely bonkers. But we love those, but yeah, they don't happen all the time. That's okay.
Georgia Southern beating Florida. I mean,
Georgia Southern beating Florida without throwing a pass.
Yeah.
I think that's also the game where the Florida linemen blocked each other.
Yeah,
like there's the video clip of like the two Florida linemen blocking, and they're blocking each other.
And they run into it and they just smash each other, and they both knock each other down. Now, I think we love, and you look at the tournament in March and April that is indoors, and I think we enjoy the idea and the romanticism of the upset. And then, for whatever reason, when it doesn't happen, we almost feel like we've been cheated out of an experience sometimes. It's like, well, this should have happened. Well, no, it shouldn't have, because the team is superior, but you end up with moments where it does happen. Yeah. And then when you look at something and you're like, yeah, it should happen, and then it doesn't, you're like, well, why not? It's just odd.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, if App State beat Alabama, that would be amazing. I'm already looking forward to this season, because if Kalen DeBoer wins single-digit games, they might run him out of Tuscaloosa on a rail, like Homer Stokes at the end of "Oh Brother Where Art Thou."
Yes,
not for the same reasons, but yeah. Man, it's I don't know what's next in this league in terms of who's next on the guillotine. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I think if Atlanta had lost the last two games, I think that decision would have made itself, or it would have been much easier.
Yeah.
And I thought this would be the moment between Tuesday and Saturday where you could reevaluate. Next moment to reevaluate is the international window after the next 3-4 games.
Yeah,
I think. Mm-hmm. Because you still are going to have to deal with schedule compression. I know Nashville kind of eschewed that when they just fired Gary on a Tuesday, or on on Wednesday morning or Thursday morning, whatever the hell it was. I think it was Thursday morning.
Yeah, it was during the show, because we almost did a 3-hour show.
Yeah, it was Thursday morning because it was when Niko was on.
Yeah,
but yeah. Also, and here's the thing with it. Here's the thing with Atlanta, and I know people are very anxious to see this resolved one way or another. The stuff we've seen out of the locker room, that's like the comments the players have made after games, leads me to believe. I mean, lead me to believe he has not lost the locker room.
Right.
I know Brad Guzan's been pretty vocal about saying it's the players that need to do their job, and has kind of deflected away from the coaching staff. Now, take that however you want. This is the same thing like yesterday with Tom Bogert. Where people got really bent out of shape, and it really pissed me off personally. With the Yakumakis stuff, with the rumors about Yakumakis possibly going to Cruz Azul. Now, whether that's a negotiation tactic, whatever it might be, people started floating the idea that Pineda's chasing away another star striker. First of all, your last striker who left fought with every manager here, and would have fought with more if you'd have brought more in here.
Yes, that's true.
God love Joseph Martinez for his production on the field.
Healthy
his work.
team.
Yes, and his work in the community, going out doing stuff. Joseph fought with everyone and anyone he could get his eyes on when it came to training. Like we remember the story, I hope, of like him doing it was like the thing I think it was in the Athletic where it was like the ultimatum about Heinze. It was like, it's him or me. Like, let's not pretend that Gonzalo Pineda is the sole reason that Joseph Martinez left Atlanta. It might have been the final one, but it wasn't the sole one. Mm-hmm. And then you already had people running with the idea that Gigi was leaving because of Pineda, because he was a bad coach, because of this, because of that. And then Tom Bogert says, no, it's replied to somebody that it's money, not coaching, was the reason. And then you kind of get pushback on that, which is where I'm going to stay pissed off. Because you can't decide that somebody is an insider and you're going to take them for what they say up until the point they say something that doesn't fit your preconceived notion, and to decide that's the point at which you're not going to believe them anymore. Just because it does not because you have some inside information or otherwise, but because that fits your preconceived notion. And that's I can't function like that. We don't know why the Cruz Azul stuff is picking up, other than Cruz Azul needs a striker because their current one blew out his knee. They could pay him a lot of money. Mm-hmm. We had it reported a couple months ago that he was in negotiations with Atlanta for more money. He's a designated player. You can pay him more money. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You want him to stay on the field. I still chalk up a lot of his 2023 stuff to the fact that he played through through this fall of 22, mm-hmm. through the spring of 23. He played at Celtic. And played a lot.
He bonked, basically, is what happened.
He played a lot.
Yeah.
And then he came here and started playing immediately and did not really. He played for a year and a half straight, basically, without a break. Mm-hmm. The first injury this year was a knee-to-knee collision, which is just unfortunate. This latest muscle pull, if that's what gives you pause, that's totally okay. I won't argue that one at all.
Yeah.
If your concern is him staying on the field, then that's fair. Like I said, I still think 23, a lot of it is he played for a year and a half straight without a break.
Yeah.
And then also did an international duty with Greece. So
Saba, Muyimba, Shande, Jamal, Gigi, all of them went through the European schedule, and Stian, all of them went through the European schedule, continued to work their way through, and then have showed up here. So that's a lot of wear and tear on the tires, man.
I like in the span of all of this, it's the entire Twitch pitch has just devolved into quoting "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Still my favorite Coen Brothers movie, and still one of my favorite films of all time. And just an absolutely perfectly written film.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Other news and notes: the provisional squad is.
You getting run over by that train?
Yes.
Damn it! I wouldn't run over by no train.
Yes. Scamacca has played his way into Italy's provisional squad for Euro 2024. It looks like he's going to play alongside Chiesa and Fagioli. Fagioli made his first Juve appearance. So provisional squad: Donnarumma, Moret, Provedel, and Vicario in net. Acerbi, Bastoni, Bellanova, Buongiorno, Cagliafiori, Cambiaso, Darmian, Di Lorenzo, DeMarco, Mancini, Scalvini in defense. Barella, Cristante, Fagioli, Foloruncio, Fratesi, Jorginho, Pellegrini, and Ricci in the midfield. Chiesa, El Shaarawy, Orsolini, Raspadori, Retegui, Scamacca, and Zaccagni at forward for Italy. So that's your provisional squad. There you go. That's your.
As long as we're doing this, we can reference the. Again, you can talk Big Lebowski all you want, Ropes. I'm fine with that one. I won't argue it. I knew I was in for a good movie though. The first time he gets on the train and does the you boys Smithies. It's not Smithies per se, would you otherwise trained in the metallurgical arts before strained circumstances forced you into a life of aimless wandering?
Wow.
I knew I was in for a good movie at that point.
Wow. Man, you guys are on it this morning.
Again, that's one of my it is right up there with City of God in terms of movies that if it comes on the TV, I'm stopping what I'm doing.
Okay. Man.
Yes, there are a lot of birds out here today, Abby.
Yeah, see, this is what happens when he gets to take a little bit of time off.
Yeah, he gets to sit out with the birds on a muggy morning.
Yeah. News out of Portland that has nothing to do with on the field stuff. It appears that DeBella is suing the Portland Timbers.
Oh, fun!
Because of the whole sponsorship thing going awry.
Yeah,
and it apparently is.
This is stable.
Yes, and so apparently it is going to be in the neighborhood of $75 million. That's what they're looking for, right?
Okay.
So this field is required. Sorry. I'm trying to get access to an article, and it's like, okay, thank you for. Yes, I know the field is required. Good Lord, people, you're trying to sign up for something, and it doesn't want me to. Sending form data. Okay, great, fine. Save my password. I'm trying to get to the article. Good Lord. God bless America. So dropped from the $3.6 million sponsorship deal in light of allegations against the CEO. And so as of right now, the home remodeling company filed a lawsuit against the Timbers, the owners, and the CEO, Heather Davis, alleging breach of contract and defamation after the team dropped DeBella as the jersey sponsor. So keep an eye on that one as well. So
Tillamook belongs. I would possibly buy a Tillamook Portland kit.
Okay.
That would not be a bad idea.
$75 million in the lawsuit for the $3.6 million sponsorship deal. Team dropped it in light of allegations of sexual harassment and unwanted advances by CEO Donnie McMillan Jr. And so Ryan T. Clark over at the Oregonian would be your requested required reading of the day because of the sponsorship and stuff that is no longer there. Last half hour of the show. We know what that means. It means one thing. It means that it is 7:30 in the morning or 7:37 in the morning on the West Coast, which also means it's time to bring in this guy and find out what cup of coffee he is on. What cup of coffee are you on, sir?
What's up, guys? Jarrett, my guy. Good to see you. SDH family, we're on cup number 2. It says that I'm up early, although I went to sleep late
last night.
Yep. So another 2 to 3 hour rest day. But when it's SDH on the phone, I got to pick up.
So takeaways from last night in your version of the Open Cup. It was kind of hairy for that first 45 minutes, and then you put the pedal down and got a couple of goals in the 60s and the 80s to get on top 2-1.
Yeah, it was a struggle, and there was a couple of moments where I started doubting if the team was going to be able to do it. For starters, Brad Smetzer kind of under-delivered on some of the things he said the day prior. He had mentioned that he was going to have a few more starters in the bench because he knew the importance behind the game and that those players would be a surprise to a lot of us. And when you looked at that bench, it didn't seem like there was a lot of offensive power. Jackson Reagan and Alex Roldan were the two guys that maybe he was referring to. And when you go down a goal and you looked at that bench, you were like, man, who's the guy that's going to come in and be a spark plug and kind of change things up? So he had to put Alex Roldan at holding mid and hope that he can make something happen. Fortunately for the home team, with a little bit of credit to them and their relentlessness from continuing to just push the ball forward and a little help from the opposition there in Phoenix Rising, kind of being really exhausted, being really gassed, and just deciding to go into a deep block, I think allowed Seattle to get more comfortable, get higher up the field, and just put a lot of balls in prime scoring positions that ultimately led to a penalty, which was a handball as well. And I say as well because the goal for Phoenix Rising came out of a bad tackle from Lenny Leyva in the box that led to a PK. But in that second part of the second half, because of Sounders' relentlessness, they were also able to take advantage of a handball that Alex Roldan puts away, and then a beautiful goal that ends the giving them the win yesterday. And I'm trying to Kosa is the name of the young kid. He has a tough name, um, and he did a great job yesterday. He played right back position. He got pushed a line higher later down the game, and then he gets the game winning goal. So all in all, it was a struggle. All in all, there were some good performances. Georgie, once again, is fun to watch. He's an exciting kid, but maybe he was not even as sharp as he was maybe the game before, but he still makes things happen. And I think that's the best part about Georgie is that doesn't matter how it happens, how he does it. Sometimes you feel like he's going to lose the ball, but he gets it right back and he just makes things happen. And that's always a good thing for the Seattle team. The bad things, Jonathan Bell went down with another hamstring injury for this Sounders team. It seems like every week there's a new injury. Danny Masovsky really struggled in front of goal. I mean, there were 3 or 4 clear chances in front of goal where you think an experienced guy that was brought in to be the guy behind the guy, either for Jordan or for Raul, would put some of those chances away. But he does do other things in terms of pressing and moving and effort that, it's always commendable. But that's kind of in a nutshell what we saw from this Sounders team yesterday. One thing that I will say, atmosphere fantastic, 3,300 plus at Starfire, always fun, always magic. That part was awesome.
Kalani Kosa Rienzi.
There you go, Kalani Kosi. Yes,
Kalani Kosa Rienzi, midfielder and defender, played at Berkeley. So he's from Berkeley, went to UW.
UW, yeah.
So he's a local dude there and can play either in the back or in the middle, and got the goal for you in the 88th to get the Duke. But now you advance, and we were discussing the matchups and the survivors in the final 8, where Atlanta United gets Indy 11. And they are the second choice for home sides when it comes to quarters and semis. If Sporting Kansas City wins their matchup, then the winner of Atlanta and Indy goes to Sporting, whether it's an Overland Park or Children's Mercy, we don't know. And Seattle has to go to Sacramento to take on the Republic. And we've been talking about USL Championship, folks, and how you cannot sit there and dismiss what you've been seeing from USL Championship teams. We got to see it with Charleston Battery, the other undefeated team in USL Championship. You got to see it with Phoenix Rising, who won the championship last year. And next up, it's a matchup in Sacramento against the Republic, who also have a big 0 in the loss column to start their year, man. You can't sleep on USL Championship teams, especially this late in the tournament.
No, and they're a scarier team in my opinion, right? I mean, I did watch that whole San Jose game, and you can tell what they do right and how quick they are in transition. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I know exactly who Kieran Phillips is, but that guy had a rocket on his back, and he was giving San Jose the GBGBs. I mean, it was just, they could not get a hold of this guy. Defensively, San Jose was just very passive and poor and non-physical. But this team's ability to stay true to what they were hoping to get along and play, right? Very direct. We're going to make sure that we win those secondary balls. A guy like Roro, who's a legend in USL Championship, helping you out in the midfield. And then in overtime, San Jose scores. And instead of you kind of putting your head down, you put it all together. And in the second half of overtime, you go back-to-back goals. I mean, within a couple of minutes, Luchi Gonzalez, after the game, just was, I don't know, at all of what happened. He's like, man, if we could take back those 5 minutes of that second half of the overtime, things would have been differently. Well, yeah, that's not what you want to hear from your coach, man. I mean, you should have definitely seen that coming. You should have kept that intensity up. But this team is interesting, man, and it does worry me And I would think that Brian will look at this game and look at both games, right? What I did against this Phoenix Rising team and what I need to do against Sacramento. And you might want to put a little bit more tools in that shed when it comes to your bench. Maybe Jordan Morris, maybe Albert Rusnak that's really struggled. So maybe you get him some minutes. Maybe Pedro La Vega if he needs more minutes. I mean, I don't know. Whatever it is, you're going to have to do more to get through the Sacramento Republic side.
Jarrett for Niko. Thursdays with Niko.
As the person who made the terrible decision to emotionally invest in San Jose years ago, and who still carries that burden because they don't learn from their mistakes. How much of what San Jose's gone through this year is a regression for Lucci versus them not restocking that roster after last year, or guys backsliding? What went wrong? Because like last year, San Jose looked somewhere between like a sneaky good team and a functionally good team, and that has not been the case.
Well, I'm getting some static there.
It's his cell phone close to his wireless. That's what happens.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me. I was looking around. All right. Yeah, no, I don't see. It's hard for me to call it a regression when the front office decided that you were going to have the same coach with the same tactics with less talent on the field. I understand that you bring in I don't want to call him Baby Maradona, but the relative of Maradona, the great nephew or whatever, and he's a really good player, and he's shown it, he's shined. But rotating this team as hard as you did against Sacramento was odd, because if there's something this team is going to have is depth, and you immediately saw it. So I don't think that there's a regression, because I feel like the attacking movements are there, because we've seen what Pellegrino has done for this squad and how he's starting to get on track. I think that whenever there are those associations in the midfield, Ibobusi looks better. Espinosa looks better. Obviously, Hernandez Lopez looks better. So all in all, I do think that the issue San Jose's had this season is more about the talent and what Lucci has to work with, rather than his tactics or his motivational aspects or whatever it is that we're looking in a coach. Because again, I don't think that it'd be crazy to think that regardless of how this team started, they are there in when it comes to getting to the playoffs. And whenever you make it to the playoffs in MLS, anything can happen. And they could win a couple of games. It could be interesting. So I think Lucci is still very much in line with what the expectations were when we saw this roster, when we saw what they did last season. So I wouldn't call it a regression, in my opinion.
Who has regressed in the Western Conference, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a good question. Obviously, and I'd be a hypocrite if I said that the Sounders are not in that conversation. They have definitely regressed simply on being a team that put a little bit of fear on you. And whenever you saw that Rafe Green jersey in your town, in your stadium, or when you're playing at Lumen Field, you feel a little bit different. And that alone has been a regression. I talked to Pedro Vite after the Sounders 1-1 draw here at home, a draw that Seattle should have won, a draw that they were the better team for the bigger parts of that game, where they started with the lead, where they did a lot of things correctly defensively, making sure that Robbie Gold was not connected to the game, denying service from White. And even then, you were unable to get that win at home. And that's not something that you used to see from this Sounders team. So there is the regression. So I have to put the Seattle Sounders in it. I think Portland regressed a lot from last season to the first, eighth of the season, to the very first couple of games of the season where they were able to get some results, to now, it just seems like it's falling apart there for our friend Naval. It really has looked like, regardless of the roster, regardless of the players, regardless of how things are played out, that Minnesota game was tough to watch in the way it all played out, missed opportunities, lack of goals. So I think Portland has regressed. But the biggest one, and probably the biggest disappointment for me, has been FC Dallas. I mean, we had them at the top of the top 5 in the Western Conference coming into the season, with LAFC and RSL and the Sounders. I mean, you'd think that they were going to be up there. And from style of play to, I know they dealt with some injuries, and actually a lot of injuries, but this team just has not looked good. They haven't been able to really get things going. It seems like there's no belief from the players in what Stevis wants to do. And when I saw Gary Smith be let go, I thought one of the next guys that was going to be on that boat was Niko Stevis. So I think that's still to be decided. But I think Dallas is probably the team that's regressed the most in the Western Conference.
Jarrett, go for it.
Or I'm here. Leave me alone. I guess as far as let's take it the other direction with the West, then, of where it kind of stands right now, and you can do it irrespective of record if you want to. But who's been the biggest surprise for you out there?
Probably the biggest surprise might be the LA Galaxy. You could go with Minnesota because of the changes, and ultimately the way things have played out for Minnesota are probably very surprising. But I think the LA Galaxy, I did not expect them to be as dominant starting off. I didn't expect Gabriel and Paintsel to adapt so quickly. I had my doubts initially about Vanny, I'm not going to lie. And I know that I'm a little bit of a fan because he was extremely nice last time he came here to Seattle. And I mean, a fan in terms of his personality and how gracious he was. So it was a surprise. There were so many holes. There were so many question marks. Can they move on from certain players? Is that fan base going to immediately come back and be as supporters as they have been in the past? And his old worked well for the LA Galaxy. They still one of the contenders in the West. They have obviously their issues defensively, and that's where they're most vulnerable. And they got to figure some things out when it comes to that part of the game. But it seems like they've gained all the confidence. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of options to play with, whether they go in with Fagundes or not, whether they play with Peck or not, where they're going to stash Paintsel at. Ricky's been amazing. So I think for me, the biggest surprise on how good they've been has been the LA Galaxy. But honorable mention, absolutely Minnesota. Did not expect them to be second of the West this far into the season, and I would definitely not expect them doing that if you told me that Reynoso was going to play no games, that he was going to continue to be a problem, that he was going to be moved on to Cholos or whatever's been reported. So I just think that Minnesota, with how everything's played out, Pookie on the bench, and Ramsey just switching to a 5-man backline and just playing more direct, and it's worked and it's looked good. I think that's definitely an honorable mention for the Western Conference.
I was going to ask if you'd seen the snippet of video or still that came out with Reynoso, and it's disturbing, the video / picture that came out with Reynoso, where there's a bag. There's some things inside the bag. There's another individual who's holding stacks of legal tender, and there's a gun that's also a part of that picture. That's some disturbing stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's something that he's never been able to get away from. And, I've gotten into several discussions this week about it because, to me, it is a waste of God-given talent. It is a waste of opportunities from a guy that could be so much more, that has so much more to give, that could provide for those people and get them out of the way. And I was kind of not attacked, but people are like, well, he comes from a bad situation. It's not that he's a waste of talent. It's just that he grew up in a bad environment. And look, as someone that grew up very humble and in not the greatest neighborhoods in Bogota, I can tell you that ultimately it's a decision, and it's about deciding where you want to go to. And I don't have the talent or the opportunities that Bebelo Reynoso have had in his time. And it's not a judgment thing, but it's just a situation where he just puts things in perspective of what it could have been of a guy like Reynoso if he was to have a better idea of where he wanted to be and a better circle around him, and deciding who those in that circle are the negative impact people there, and if he was to move on. So it's just unfortunate because the reality is that a lot of the best athletes in any sport, including soccer, have come from unfortunate situations and bad neighborhoods, and it's all about the decisions we make as we grow older. And there is no excuse for Reynoso and everything he's done and the way his career has kind of spiraled in the last couple of years.
Jarrett, with Niko, before we get into cliffhanger and the weekend that will be in Major League Soccer.
I guess, yeah. I was going to ask about the Reynoso thing, but we're already there, so we could just let Sleeping Dogs lie with it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess looking forward into your setup out there in Seattle coming up with a lot going on in the summer. I wanted to, because we talked about it a lot with the guys who are going to be missing this summer for Atlanta, for international duty, for Olympics, whatever it might be. How is it? What's it looking like? What's it looking like out in Seattle with that roster of guys you might be missing?
Yeah, I mean,
that didn't sound good, man.
Yeah, it's because I don't want to discredit some of the things Seattle has been able to do, and I don't want to dismiss the fact that the amount of injuries that have happened to this team are incredible. I mean, the fact that every week there's a new one. Josh Atencio last week, he's still out. He's not making the trip to St. Louis, according to what Brian kind of indicated. So I understand that there's a whole bunch of injuries for this team. But I talked to Paul Tenorio when he was here for the Vancouver game. Checked that conversation with him in Pulso Sports. But we had the exact same conclusion that this is the team that is going to ultimately decide your faith in MLS. Because if you're betting on the summer window, you're just not doing it right because of the amount of games that whatever player you bring in is going to have able impact to do in that amount of time. 9 games, 8 games, whatever, however long it takes you. So this is the team that's going to really decide where you're going to be at. And when you look at the Seattle Sounders team, yes, with Pedro de la Vega on the field, they're just different. Pedro is as advertised. He was a spark in the 15 minutes he played against Vancouver. He was resourceful. He got 2 shots on the post. I mean, he was dangerous. He was fun to watch. But ultimately, it goes back to what the ceiling of this team is. And I just think it's playoffs. I just don't think that it goes beyond that. I would be surprised if that's not the case. Whenever the players that were supposed to carry the load for your team and the players that you ultimately categorized as the guys that were going to make or break your team are not performing, it's just a bad situation. And I don't see when or how they're going to play any better. Maybe with Pedro, they will play better, but that's still to be seen. So the Albert Rusnak has been a problem this season. He hasn't performed, hasn't been good. Jordan Morris, can he get his confidence back? Because, look, I am still a guy that yesterday at Starfire, people are coming to me and they're like, hey, when are they going to bench Jordan Morris? Come on, man. Like, you got to see it my way. He's just not the guy anymore. And what I would tell those people is like, look, man, I still don't think we or this Sounders team should bench Jordan Morris because he does a whole bunch of other things defensively. I know that he's struggling in front of goal. I know his body language tells you that he's frustrated, but he's still giving you 100%. And I don't think at this point in time there's a better option on that side. Maybe with Pedro, we could move things around, but right now that's not the case. So to your point, Jarrett, I think that this team is going to continue to have issues, is going to continue to struggle. They're going to have good games, but the lack of consistency is going to be there, and the lack of quality and impactful players is going to be the determining factor that will keep this team a playoff contender, but not a title contender. And let me briefly just talk about Kalani Kosa, because I feel like I ruined his name, and that's unfair to the kid that yesterday he's been on a radar. Just like Georgie, Jeremiah Oshan of Sounder Heart and myself have really liked this kid because he's a baller, and he's so physical. He has all his athletic ability, but he's willing to learn every single time. Last night, not just the goal, not the patience, the control inside the 18 to, as a player that maybe you think more a couple of lines back defensively, his composure, control in the 18 to put the ball where he did just shows you how versatile he is. He doesn't have a first team contract, but he's a guy that I could see definitely next season getting a contract because of his versatility. So I want to applaud and praise and highlight the player that he is and the performance he had yesterday, because he was a MVP candidate last night, and he really did absolutely everything. Doesn't matter where they put him, he did great. So I just wanted to put that out there in parentheses because I had ruined his name, and I think that's a guy that your audience should be listening for, should be watching out for.
All right, time to play cliffhanger to wrap it up for a Thursday with Thursdays with Niko at El Rolo and W on the 280 character app. Let's start it off top of the order. Atlanta United, 7:30 Eastern time on Saturday night. LAFC coming to town, but we made the point. Atlanta United rotated, but it was rotating to younger players and second-team players. LAFC played their big guns most of the match against Loudoun United. Bouanga played 80. Bogusz played full. Ilie was pulled after 23 because of an injury. Frankly, we don't know what these lineups are going to look like in this one. Atlanta United favored at Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think I touch it. I will say that this LAFC team does seem to understand how to manage each game. And I feel like a lot of the things that they do offensively and the way they push the ball could put this Atlanta in some tough situations. I saw that Nashville game, and there's still just some issues there for Gonzalo. And I feel like Cherundolo is a guy that understands where your most vulnerable positions are to either lose the ball or push the ball. So I think this was going to be difficult for LAFC. Again, I'm not going to touch it at all when it comes to the juice boxes, but I think LAFC can really make Atlanta very uncomfortable in this game.
Other 7:30 matchup I wanted to focus on, Toronto FC, underdog at home as FC Cincinnati visits FC Cincinnati's a plus 138, Toronto's a plus 187, your draw's a plus 242.
Ooh, I like that draw. Look, Toronto is so interesting to me, and I've said it here a couple of times. I don't need to repeat it, but I feel like there's simplistic way to make sure that every player on that field is doing what they're good at. Put Insigne and take away a lot of defensive necessities and put him in certain places. Allow Bernadeschi to be Bernadeschi and push as high as he wants and move inside, outside, wherever he goes. Him and his dreadlocks. I mean, he just whatever it is that he has, the braids. Just allow him to be him. Davy Flores, man, is just unbelievable. And I need to make sure that we understand something about Toronto. The magic, the fragrance, the beauty of the cooking, it's Italian. But the guy doing all of the mixing, he's Honduran. And Davy Flores, he was only given one assist or officially one assist, but he was involved in 4 of the 5 goals. And just the way he distributes, the way he understands when he's got to pause, when he has to go. So good defensively, so smart, his ability to cut down spaces. So Toronto could give Cincinnati some issues. I like the draw there.
All right, and then one last matchup. Obviously, it's yours. It's all caps, hosting Seattle. St. Louis City, 8:30 Eastern time at a plus 119. Your draw is a plus 248. Seattle coming off Open Cup is a plus 217 on the road at City Park.
Ooh, those are some good numbers there for Seattle. Look, man, there's no way that I'm going to sit here with a straight face and tell you to put your juice boxes on Seattle. I really can't. I feel like they have been playing with fire. They got that big win at Portland, but after that, they kind of went back to some of the same issues. Even yesterday, and we asked Brian that he kind of got away with one a little bit because things looked grim there for a second. So I just don't see them winning at San Luis. I really don't. I think all four City will get this game. I think that Seattle will drop the points. Pedro La Vega is still not going to be started in this one, I don't think. Maybe he is, but it takes some time to just get in game rhythm and do certain things. I don't think he'll start this one, but even if he does, and even if he's still a spark plug of the bench, I don't know if it's enough to beat a good San Luis team. That they've had their own issues. I get it. I understand it. But I feel like at home, San Luis, this is one where Seattle might not be able to do enough. And you are a little thin in the center of the field. No Josh Atencio. I think Christian's done a really good job playing that pivot with JP. But what happens if you need to make a move? And we know Brian believes Christian's best position is that right wing. So if he needs to push that, he's over going to come back. I mean, there's just some question marks in terms of what this team can do against Vancouver. First 15 minutes, great movement, great ability to take on players, the right passes at the right times. And then after that, the foot just came off the accelerator. Against San Luis, you're going to have to keep that on. And I'm not sure if they can. And maybe Brian will surprise me and he will do things to make sure that they control tempo of this game and they're the protagonist and they put San Luis on the back heels. But I just don't like the likelihood of it, and that's why I think St. Louis will win it.
All right, what's going on at Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports, my friend?
All right, well, Pulso Sports, I already kind of gave you that quick plug on the Paul Tenorio conversation. Check that out. A great guy, someone that's recognized around MLS. Talked about the Sounders ceiling, what could happen in the summer, what could not happen, or is likely not to happen in the summer. So go ahead and check that out. Today I'll be leaving here right after Soccer Bar and do a little quick visiting of the training facility because the team is going to do a very light training today and then travel. So we'll try to talk to some of the players and see if we get anything else on Pulso Sports. And at Soccer Bar, of course, we'll talk more about these Open Cup games, talk about where some other MLS teams can maybe struggle and fall on their face, flat on their face in the next round of this Open Cup. We'll talk about MLS upcoming weeks. So go ahead and check that out here in about 40 minutes.
Yes, about 40 minutes or so. As always, my friend, great to have you here on a Thursday, and enjoy the rest of your morning. Cup of coffee number 2 with the Rave Green mug, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Ooh, appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, there goes Niko. Salute and the second cup of coffee. Jarrett, anything else on your mind before we get out of here? One note, West Ham's Lucas Paquetá has been charged with misconduct by the FA for allegedly getting booked on purpose to influence the betting market on 4 occasions. Match against Leicester, November 22, Aston Villa, March of 23, Leeds, May of 23, Bournemouth, August of 23. So keep an eye on that. What else is on your mind?
Not a lot. Just, yeah, man. We got the Open Cup draw. Got through the midweek. Now we get through the weekend. I guess everybody just have fun with it.
And the Twos are in Chattanooga to take on Chattanooga FC as a part of this as well, because and we won't know what that lineup looks like either because of the rotation that happened. So I'm going to catch up with Steve Cook and find out some info and get some intel and see what's going on as they get into the matchup with Chattanooga FC, which gets a 40-minute head start on Atlanta United's match, 7 o'clock in Chattanooga at Fort Finley on Saturday night. Atlanta United kicks off at 7:40. Since you're back from vacation, guess what? You're the one that gets to send us home.
Mucho plata, y'all.
What he said. Back at it again tomorrow, 9:05 Eastern time. Very, very busy day on a Freestyle Friday. Play it safe, everybody. Mucho plata, y'all.